Hello everyone and welcome to the first D2kEditor tutorial. In this tutorial we're going to be covering how to download the tool and then also how to configure it so you can actually start creating some maps, and besides that we're also going to have a look at the terrain tab so you can how can you actually create some pretty nice terrains. So first of all, you're obviously going to want to, download the tool and have it configured so you can actually use it. In order to do that, you're going to have to come over here on D2k at this very particular link over here, which you can also get from you know, our Discord server. From the tools channel here in the downloads center, you can just click this thing and it's going to bring you here. So once you're here, you can read all this if you want to, see what's going on and what's the new stuff that has been added. But there will generally be a download thing that you can click, which is going to allow you to obviously download the tool. So once you saved it somewhere on your disk, you're obviously going to want to unzip the thing, and once you are done with that, you're gonna see all of this stuff over here. Now all you really need to do in order to configure this in the recent versions is just simply open the exe file, and it's gonna throw this wall of text at you. It's basically asking you to browse for your game installation folder so it can configure everything for you, and you're gonna click yes because you really want that, and then you just browse to your game folder and select the main exe file for 2000. It's that easy. Then you click open, and there you go, game path configured, and then the tool is pretty much ready to use. So the first thing you're going to do obviously is go to file and create a new map. Now this is the tileset selection. You can select one of the tilesets from here. You can have custom tilesets, but we will cover that in a later tutorial. For now we're sticking to vanilla stuff, so just go with the default one you don't care for now. And then the map width and height, we're gonna stick to the default values here for starters, but just keep in mind any value here has to be less or equal to 128, and also it has to be an even number. So you can't do odd numbers. It has to be even, otherwise it's gonna crash. Okay, so just keep that in mind. So once you've created the map, it's usually gonna fill it with sand depending on the tile set, but the default tile sets will fill it with sand. And then we can have a look over here to the right tab, the terrain tab, and you see the brush size. Now if you select a higher brush size and then you select the type of stuff you want to paint, you can go ahead and paint that particular stuff on that brush size. You can decrease it if you want more accuracy and stuff like that. So let's just quickly create a small rock patch here, just like that. You can add some spice. Obviously the spice in the latest versions of the editor is very nicely smoothing out, and it looks better. It's not blocky anymore as it used to be in the past. So that's a really neat thing. You can also add the thick spice and stuff like that. You can also add dunes and whatnot. uh, you're gonna probably ask me, what is this concrete thing? Is this the real thing? Well, not really. This is sort of a fake concrete. You cannot really build on top of this. You can't really kill it like with weapons. You can destroy it. So this is mostly for decoration. It's not going to actually act like real concrete. So just keep that in mind, okay? Now, before we go into any of the other options, let's talk more about the painting of terrain. So you can do this kind of stuff as I showed you. Just hold your mouse down and you're gonna draw stuff. But maybe, I mean, you're gonna want to smooth this out. You don't like this rectangle bullshit look that it has right now. Now there are two ways you can do that. First is the easy automated way of doing it, which might have obviously not so great results because it's an automated process, and we all know automated processes sometimes just don't deliver the same quality as a human being. However, you can quickly get rid of this blockiness by holding down your shift key and clicking with the rock paint mode selected here, then holding down shift and clicking on an edge. And there you go. This whole thing has been smoothed out for you. You don't have to care about it anymore. And obviously some parts might look repetitive or something. This actually looks pretty good. Maybe this part is a little bit repetitive, but it was a pretty good way to. I mean, the result is pretty okay. Sometimes you're gonna get really bad results. Let's see. Let's try this. Well, this is pretty decent too. Okay, you get the point anyway. So this is a nice, quick way to do it. Might not look great. The second way to do it is to go to the block mode, which is down here. So you'll have to select this radio button here, and then you have this rock border, okay? So you select rock border and then click here to select a block. Now this is going to open up that category of tiles from the tile set. So these are the rock borders. You can add them manually, and so you can basically smooth this by yourself. It's going to take more time, but you obviously have more control over it, so therefore the result can be better. Now that's totally up to you. To be honest, personally, I am not going to waste my entire life smoothing these out by hand. But yeah, I'm doing it manually almost every single time, except very few occasions where I have to like have a weird shape that doesn't work, because not everything works with the smooth. So for example, if I do this, you have to pay attention. If you have single tiles like this one, it's not going to work. See, it's gonna stop at some point. So you have to make sure you do not have isolated tiles. So these two are an issue. You see this one here and this one here. These are an issue. You can't smooth because of them. Now if you just add one of these, like just like this, it's gonna work. So just make sure there's no isolated tile, okay? That's pretty much about it. But anyway, I really suggest you use this auto smooth thing whenever possible because it saves a lot of time. It also works with dunes because they are blocky too. Yeah, believe me, they are. You can maybe see that it's kind of hard to see, but still. So now I hold down shift while the dunes are selected here. So I hold down shift and click, and there it goes. It smooths the dunes too. So yeah, that's one way to deal with the the rock patches and stuff like that. So talk more about the block mode, which is very important. Here you have also the cliffs. So you can place down all the cliffs in the game, like you can create those nice cliff bases and stuff like that. And there's no quick way to do this. You just have to do it by hand. Now, some of them you can see one of four. There are multiple variations of the same type of tile. You can right click to change them, so to toggle between them. So you also have this one single tile here, the last one, which fits situations like this. See? And then you can go for the two tile one and stuff like that, and then you can just you just create a terrain for yourself, find the matching pieces and whatnot. That's the idea. So you also have the sand specials, which are pretty self-explanatory if you just watch what you're getting. Rock specials, this goes for the rock part, you know, and other specials, these are things like very these depend on tile set a lot, so these are always going to be different on the default tile sets. Also the dunes border, if for whatever reason anybody on this planet really wants to smooth out the dunes by themselves, which I find total hell, but if you want to do that, there you go, you have the dunes border here too. Alright, so let's say we covered this. We're gonna have a look at the select mode in a second, but first let's go to the structures tab, okay? Because that's gonna depend on the select mode too. So here in the structures tab, this is where you can place down buildings and units and stuff like that. So this is how you're gonna create a base. Let's just say you're an Atreides guy because everybody loves Atreides, right? No, I guess not really, but still. So you're gonna place down a base, and you're gonna make it pretty good looking because you are an amazing artist and shit like that. And then you're gonna, you know, obviously want to set up everything like maybe a harvester or something. So you're gonna be asking me, how do you do that? Well, you have to keep in mind when you place down refineries, first of all, it's always going to deliver a harvester for free. You cannot prevent that, okay? So just by putting these two down, the Atreides side already has two harvesters. So you have to keep that in mind. If you are going to come down here, select the harvester and place it, now the Atreides will have four harvesters. So keep in mind, it's always going to be a free harvester with the refinery. This does not apply to the carriel though, so there's no free carriel. If you want carriels, you're going to have to place them on the ground, just like I did right now. So yeah, that's one thing to keep in mind. Obviously, you can select another side and then you can do the same thing all over again and place buildings and stuff like that. Another thing you have to keep in mind is that if the side you are placing units for on the map, like I'm doing right now, if this side, if Atreides are computer controlled, uh, these initial units will not move. They will be in guard mode, and the AI will always keep them in the same position, guarding a certain radius around that unit. So if you want, if you want initial units for the AI side that can actually patrol around the base and stuff like that, you'll have to use conditions and create an event for that. But we will cover that in a later tutorial. For now, we're just covering the bases and terrain and stuff like that. So the basic stuff. So honestly, I guess the buildings and units tabs are pretty self-explanatory, so there's no good reason to insist on covering these anymore. Maybe you should be looking at the misc objects over here. So the worm spawner, this is something you need on every single map. You need at least one worm spawner no matter what, because otherwise the map won't load. So at least one. You can place more. The more, I think the limit is somewhere towards 30 or 32, something like that. Um, if you go over that, they will start to glitch out and shit. So, you know, usually it's like three. People use three because that's how it's been in the original game. I have a certain map which has like 28 or something like that because it's like a gimmick map. It has the objective to avoid worms. So, yeah, you can do that if you want, but you know, just keep that in mind. And if you don't want worms though, on the map, you just don't want worms because they are annoying and you don't want them to eat your harvesters, you can do this trick. So put the worm on a rock or anything that's impassable and it's not sand, basically. So the worm will not spawn and you're gonna be okay as long as you don't use the sandworm side, okay? So if you don't use it, you don't place buildings, you don't give it an AI or stuff like that, for the sandworm house, uh, this method will completely remove the worm. Okay, so just keep that in mind. We're going to talk about ways to go over this small inconvenience if you want to use the sandworm sign, but that's going to be in another tutorial. The player start, this is only for skirmish maps, so for multiplayer maps it doesn't affect anything in single player. Spice blooms, obviously, if you put it this one, it's infinite. It says right in the name. And these other ones, it's how many times it's going to respawn. Okay, so it's pretty self-explanatory. You can use these, um, and yeah, you see, it's gonna have a marker on it too, so you can distinguish between these two. So yeah, now that we've covered the structures tab, let's talk about select mode, which can be very useful at times. And what this essentially is, it's a copy paste tool. So as you can see, I was able to select that whole region by dragging the mouse around it like a selection box. And then because I had structures checked and I had area everything, it copied everything. The spice, the terrain, the buildings and the units, okay? So I can just come down here and put it down and there you go. It looks like crap, but I pasted it successfully. Now you can go back and maybe you only want the spice, okay? And you don't want the structures, so you uncheck the structures, you only have the spice, and then you do this. And boom, it only copied the spice. It didn't even copy the spice bloom. You can see that gap in the spice, that's where the bloom was. So yeah, you can play around with these things. Maybe you just want the rocks and cliffs, you want to copy terrain. I sometimes do that because I'm a lazy ass and I don't want to create terrain for every single part of the map, so I sometimes copy it from other missions or my own old missions or something. But you can do that, as you can see. So, you know, you can play around with these things. There's a checkbox there's a tooltip, sorry, that goes off screen for me for whatever reason, but uh, yeah. So just these are the void tiles. If you're gonna be asking me what the hell is that, well, it's just that. Okay, it's black. It's unpassable. You cannot walk on it. You cannot build in on it. It's a void tile. Okay, I don't know what else to say. Why is it there? I don't know. It's just a void tile. I guess it's for small maps where you have to add this to the borders, like uh, you have to do this around the borders so that the playable field uh, is not too small. This is for high resolution patch. If the map itself is too small, it's gonna crash the game because the map is smaller than the actual viewport or something like that. I really hope you get the idea, but usually you're not gonna need this, okay? As nobody's gonna create 16 by 16 maps or anything like that. So yeah, I guess this is pretty much all about the this first part of the of the editor. Structures and terrain, pretty easy stuff to be honest. Very self-explanatory. Just open up the editor, play around with it, create some bases and stuff. And in the next ones, we're gonna be looking at how to make all of this alive, how to give AI to sides and stuff like that. So yeah, see ya later with another tutorial.